Okay, I'll call this meeting to order at 7:04 PM. Does anybody here in the room need a hard copy of the agenda? Great. We'll start with the first agenda item, welcome, comments, announcements, and events. I've got a few things.
Actually, Brett, you have an extra copy, I'll take.
Yeah, first. I've got a few things just to announce. And I think one thing, a hand around to the people in the room with apologies to Fran on the computer. I became aware this morning of a prospective application for a new gas station to go in at Kenny Dunn Square, where the old gas station had been.
Where's Kenny Dunn Square?
That's the intersection of Losbrook Road and Commonwealth Ave.
There's a bakery.
Yeah, abutting the bakery, yeah. I think that that's something that we should keep an eye on. We can't discuss it today because it's not posted on our agenda and I don't have details for you. But I would direct you, if you're interested, to get up to speed on it, to watch the meeting of the West Concord Advisory Board, which just went on YouTube yesterday, the January 14th. That'll get you up to speed on the plans for that gas station. I think we should watch this and probably think about deliberation on it in future meetings. I want to say thank you to the people that stepped up to volunteer at the home tours on the 31st. Appreciate everybody who raised their hand, did in fact end up volunteering, so thank you for that. It should be really exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing Wendy's house and hearing all about all of her wonderful stuff. I want to point out in your meeting sheet, this is pages 10 to 12 of your meeting packet. On that list of events, we've got on January 28th, two different events that I think we may want coverage of both of them. People at this room on both of these. One is a webinar, 7 PM for Metro West Climate Solutions. The other is a Bedford chapter meeting of Mothers Out Front, where they're going to talk about composting. I think it's worth having somebody in this room, whether that's Megan or a Mothers Out Front member, or one of us that is also happens to be a Mothers Out Front member, whether that's you or Catherine or me, to go to Bedford and be a part of that, because they're going to talk about how Bedford has been successfully getting residents of Bedford to compost in greater numbers. They have an incentive program structure. We could learn some stuff from them. But that'll be a direct conflict with the webinar. So is there anybody who has an opening in their calendar that would be interested in crossing municipal lines and going into Bedford to hear about composting?
What is the,
Let me just see if I'm free on the 28th.
What was your question?
what was the time?
7 to 8 PM on Wednesday, January 28th.
What was the other? There was also one you said, Metro West something.
Yeah, so that one's going to be a webinar, Metro West Climate Solutions. It's going to be all about making a plan to go green in your home. Don't wait until your boiler is flooding your basement to go green.
I think I'm gonna attend the webinar.
I would go to the Bedford Mothers Out Front.
Okay. Right.
I can go with that. We'll be there as well.
And just you'll send the location.
So that is actually in your
Packet.
packet. Click on that link and you'll have to register for the event before Bedford Mothers Out Front tells you where it's going to be. So that's the way that works. But that would be super, and I'll alert them that we may be sending somebody from Concord so that they're not surprised.
That not a mother shows up.
There are a lot of men and mothers out front.
Okay, good.
I will have you know, since I am one of them. The last thing, this is an event that I should have put in your packet and I just forgot to do it. But I was reminded of this today, so I'm gonna hand out a flyer if you're interested, take a look. The thing that got me on this was the sales pitch for it. So this is the Hayward Meadows Steering Committee presenting a presentation on the Haywood Meadow preservation. It's been 25 years since.
Can we take one?
Yeah, absolutely. Since residents said, no way are you gonna develop on that land, we want to preserve it. So this is all about what happens when a group of organized residents says no to something. And the things that can flow from that. So I should have put this in your packet, I just forgot to. So if you're interested in that, I think it is directly relevant to a lot of the things that we do. Not that we're gonna plan to say no to anybody that might be presenting tonight. Does anybody else have any comments, events, announcements that aren't in our packet that you want to make the committee aware of? Hearing none, I think we're in line to move on to agenda item number 2. I apologize for the order of your meeting packets tonight. We're gonna jump around a little bit in the packets. First item on the agenda is approval of December 17 minutes. The draft minutes are pages 2 to 5 of the packet. Brad, did you get the suggestions that I had?
And I've incorporated, most of them.
Okay. Did anybody else have any edits that they needed to make that haven't been communicated
From December minutes.
on the December minutes? If not, we would be in line for a motion to approve them as amended.
Motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Do I hear a second? Please. Paul,
Second.
thank you.
Sorry.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll be in line for a vote because we've got a member on the Zoom. We're gonna need to do it by roll call. Okay,
We've got everybody but Catherine here,
yeah, but the issue is that we have a member on Zoom, so we're supposed to roll call and you vote. So those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Bob?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
Paul? Fran?
Aye.
And Catherine?
Aye. You're not voting on.
You're voting to approve the December 17th.
Yes, and I read them, and I approve.
Okay, chair votes aye, that's unanimous.
I had a health emergency.
Next item on the agenda would be the draft January 5 minutes. And that is,
Those were great, excellent.
thank you. That's pages 6 to 8 on your meeting packet. One correction to what was distributed to you is there was no Eric at that meeting. It was Ryan Ferrara and the assistant CFO. That was the only amendment that I made. Did anybody have any corrections or errata? Did anybody need more time on that? Okay, so I think the motion that the chair would smile upon would be to approve those minutes as amended, provided however that before submitting them to the town, we fill in the numbers for the appendices and that we include the digitized images of the boards and notes that we created in that meeting.
Did you send those around?
No, I haven't,
Oh, okay,
but I will.
sure.
Once you do what I'm asking for, I'll send it to you.
Once we make the motion,
Yeah,
I'm gonna make a motion to approve the January 6th minutes, 5th minutes. As amended and numbers filled in and all the other stuff you said.
excellent. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll be in line for vote. Bob,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Catherine,
Aye.
Shelley,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Fran,
Aye.
chair votes aye, it's unanimous, thank you. Next, we will move to the chair's update. just wanted to alert you that we have submitted our annual report. It's included in your meeting packet. It's actually a copy of what we sent to her, but it's the same thing. Pages 27 to 29 is the end of the meeting packet. So thank you for your input on that. We did get it in. And the annual town meeting warrant is closing on Friday. The moderator is aware presently of 47 town meeting articles. Could be more that she's not aware of. We'll see. We'll hear about one of those possible articles in a few minutes. Once the articles are available, per our prior discussion, we'll review those and plan to discuss in February and March anything that may be relevant to us in either our February or March meetings as needed. Any discussion of that?
What's the date of the meeting?
Next month.
No, the annual meeting.
Oh, the annual town meeting is gonna
That's
be,
in end of April, the last Monday of April.
right, we are 4 minutes early to hear then from Megan. Are you with us, Megan?
I am. Hi, thank you. Good evening. Megan Zamudo, Deputy Town Manager. And I have a few things for you this evening. There's a written report in the packet covering a few topics that I will go over. So first, already been mentioned is that the Does It Work Midwinter Home Tour. So just want to make sure that everyone's aware of that. I know this committee is co-sponsoring it. But there's been a lot of outreach happening from CMLP and the town manager's office, and we're looking forward to that event. We also did a podcast episode with Ethan Herberman that came out last Wednesday, and that was all about heat pumps, insulation. It's kind of highlighting the events coming up next weekend, and so if you haven't listened, I have about 75 listeners, so we wouldn't mind, share it with some friends. This is a great one for people in this committee. If you're trying to get the word out, this is a nice, digestible listen for people. And one piece of good news that I want to share is that today I got an email from my colleague at CMLP who got a request for working with a heat pump coach, which has a form that comes in, and this resident has heat pumps, but is looking for some help with designing an insulation project. And then there's a column that says, how did you find out about kind of heat pump coaches? And they said the podcast. So we're reaching people. And as I said, we're turning every podcast into a sustainability podcast, because that really kind of is the lens in which we're seeing so much of the work that we're doing in town. So now I'm done bragging about that.
Yeah.
Just a minute, we had a question, go ahead.
Oh, sure.
Do you want us to put your podcast as an event on the Cooler Comfort page, since it's climate related?
Sure.
Okay.
If it event criteria, your call.
So you're talking about future podcasts or,
Well, this stuff,
Yeah. okay.
All of them are sustainability, it sounds like related, so.
Probably the best fit is a social media post, right? You could blast it out to the email list too, maybe,
Yeah,
rather than do something that already happened as an event.
well, right.
Ongoing.
Yeah.
I think we should have a link to we should make a very clear link to a page with the podcast, which is on the town website, I assume.
Yeah.
And rather than duplicate effort, just make it as clear as possible that where to go to hear them, and then we could mention it in an upcoming newsletter.
Great suggestion, thanks.
Great, thank you. Yeah, there's a few episodes that are specifically on climate action plan goals. This is one of them. I think last month I mentioned that we have one on stormwater, enterprise fund, and we have one on the time of day rates with CMLP. So there are a few that are really kind of projects that came out of that plan that, could be promoted however you see appropriate.
And just to,
oh.
just to add to what you said about the green home tours coming up, some of the homes are already fully subscribed, so they're doing a great job on that. Meaning, you better sign up now if you want to come.
That's great. Yeah, it's a full court press right now. So I think that's wonderful. Second, there's been a lot of activity in the Suasco Climate Collaborative, which is our MVP grant. We have had 4 community focus groups in the last month, 2 for municipalities, 2 for community-based organizations. Shannon and I have been participating. I think who else was from the committee? There's a few people from the committee that came to one of them. That's right. And Paul's been at some. So I think it's been a productive conversation. We're really grateful for our partners at ORS and MAPC who are doing a lot of the presenting and facilitating the conversations. But it's been very thoughtful, and it is always nice to hear, especially for me, from other municipalities that are worrying about the same things we're worrying about and willing to give up 90 minutes of their time to listen to their colleagues and talk about it and be part of a solution. So it's been inspiring. We are planning to do a youth outreach effort towards the end of the month. We do have Concord resident Sophia on the call, it looks like, who has been helping. If you remember, she participated or came to some meetings last summer and has been a really helpful touch point in the youth community. So we appreciate her assistance. I did summarize one of the focus group conversations just so you can get a taste of what's being discussed and how people are thinking about this. We've been talking about this decarbonization roadmap for a while. I did get a draft right before New Year's from Power Options, and we are reviewing it internally right now. So I sent it out to a bunch of my colleagues that work on a lot of these buildings, and my plan is to schedule a meeting soon. I did share it with Jerry, who is asking for a copy, who's been involved in this effort. And I'm happy to share it now, but I mean, we haven't really looked at it with a really, clear, we're all kind of starting to pour over it now and make sure there aren't any major errors. And we want to give feedback to Power Options so that it is a document that we can bring to you all and eventually bring to the select board. So that is a big, step forward, I'd say, in that effort.
Megan, this is Fran. I just wanted to thank you for that work and volunteer to review it anytime would be helpful.
Sure. Thank you, Fran. Yes, I will send that. I'll send that along.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. And I mean, Power Options put it together with our data. So appreciate that. And then moving on to the ESCO effort. So we are, taking small steps here, but things are moving. As I mentioned in December, we have a natural gas supply contract that has been auto-renewing. We're looking to end our relationship there, join Power Options, which has a building decarbonization as a service model that a lot of municipalities that have Power Options are a member of Power Options are able to take advantage of. This is a new service. And it allows us to be strategic about what buildings we're looking at first, especially as we're looking at our buildings in the community, and we're looking at land use working group and thinking about all of our options from municipal consolidation to new police and fire and new public works and that kind of thing. So we, I found the contract, we were reviewing it. We are meeting where I kind of ran it through our legal counsel to get some advice on how to start the process to end that relationship. We do have a meeting scheduled next week with our facility staff, with members of the school department and with their facility staff, so we can all talk about this together and have a strategy to think about how to move towards this new model. So I hope to have more updates with that next week. And I think that covers it for me. A lot of what we're also, getting ready for is the Climate Action and Resilience Plan, of course, and I think that's later on the agenda, and Shannon will lead that discussion.
I have one question on the Suasco front. Are you still anticipating a meeting on March 25? Do you have more
Yes.
detail on that?
We do. It's going to be at Harvey Wheeler in the evening, and we have a flyer that will be um, probably finalized in the next week or two. I think that we're talking about it here, but I think that the best practice is to advertise maybe like 6 weeks in advance. So I think we're getting closer to the time where we'll do kind of the full announcement and share. But yes, we want to have a good showing, and looking forward to welcoming other community-based organizations and municipalities from the watershed, from several communities around us, to come to Harvey Wheeler and start talking about this stuff together in person.
So what time should we all put in our calendars right now?
I sent a calendar invite out to you
Right.
all already for 7 o'clock.
Excellent.
No, I noticed it was on my calendar. I was asking the same question.
How's that for
And
efficiency?
then a question about, since it is such a broad regional effort, how are you advertising, or how can we help in that effort? So it's not just Concord residents, that the people.
Yeah.
How's
One
that?
thing that we've really been talking about is how to reach kind of beyond the voices that we hear from a lot that are interested in, on the email list. We're looking for, as a team, this whole project team is looking, how do we reach our environmental justice blocks? Like, how do we reach out to folks in other languages? We do have a translation budget, and we're working on a strategy for looking at the data to figure out what languages we should translate the flyer into, and then hire translation services for those languages, so that you don't just get a flyer and then arrive and not able to contribute and share your ideas. So I think that's something that we're thinking about, and wanting to make sure we're hearing all voices. And I know, Paul, you had some thoughts on that, and I think it had a really good lens, but it has been kind of underscoring how important it is to hear from everyone. I don't know if you have anything to add on that conversation today.
I think we, the community agreed that it's important to, reach out to, the environmental justice communities, because there are quite a few in the watershed. And so far, we haven't had had no interaction with them in any of the meetings we've had so far. So we're just gonna ramp up that effort to try to reach them in their space. But I just realized this meeting in Concord in March. It may be difficult for some groups to get here, so we may want to think about another workshop like this in another location where there's
Mhm.
more EJ groups. But things, we're aware of this challenge, and we're gonna figure out how to do it.
Fran, you've got your hand up?
Thank you. Megan, I know the Power Options work is for municipal buildings. But if the town decides to go ahead with something with Power Options, would there be some way informally, maybe rather than formally, to invite nonprofits in town that are not part of government, but that would be sort of eligible customer types for Power Options, to join in, sort of work in parallel, have some sort of a volunteer effort, just to sort of encourage some other folks to join in the process?
I think that's a really good point. I think that they do serve nonprofits as well.
Yes.
I think it would be their own contract and their own kind of partnership, but I think kind of spreading the word once we kind of get our ducks in a row over here about the opportunities, and sharing that for people that are interested in making these investments in a smart way. I think that would be a good story to tell as part of, like, look what we're trying to do. What if this could be something for you, or maybe there's other options that are out there for for other private entities.
Thanks.
Any other discussion or questions on the deputy town manager's report?
I guess well, do you understand the timeline with the power options? I'm just, to Fran's comment, it's a great one. Just thinking about like, could there even be a, some sort of public information session about it, just to educate about the opportunity. But to your point, like you want to get your ducks in a row, so I'm just curious if.
Yeah.
This timeline.
Yeah. It's been taking a little while. It's just that we've had a lot of kind of competing priorities. But as we're looking at this one, this has been on the list for a while, and we understand that it needs to happen. We were waiting so long for them to kind of establish their product, this new method, and we're looking at this other, kind of ESCO path for a while and engage council on that. But timeline, I would say I would hope to have really some progress this spring, and like be working towards it. I think we really have the right people at the table next week. We have our procurement staff participating. They've already been educated on this, but I think we've been informed, and now we're ready to line up our actions. And so I'm hopeful that we'll be able to move forward on that in the next month or two.
Anything else from anyone?
Just one little, on the ESCO, is it also involving electricity purchases then too, or just natural gas?
Is it involving electricity? It's a natural gas contract, and then we will be able to use it as like an ESCO model to invest in.
But it's only in the natural gas realm, because CMLP provides all the power to all the municipal
Right.
buildings, so.
Right.
Can the town competitively go around CMLP and get? No, okay.
I don't think so.
The analysis would cover electricity usage and ways to make it more
Yes.
efficient or electrify more things or whatever.
Thank you.
Is the town gonna have a person at the school committee, the district school committee, not committee, but sustainability meeting next week? Wednesday?
Which one is that? I'm sorry.
The school district usually has a full district sustainability meeting on Wednesday. I was wondering if anybody from the town is gonna be there.
It wasn't on my calendar, but is it during the day?
Yeah, 4 p.m. at Ripley on the 28th.
Yeah. Are you on this? I think we should make sure we should add you to that email list. It comes from Dr. Hunter.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think I am on that. I think that was
She
probably.
used to run those, yeah, she used to run those meetings. They were monthly, and now they're switched. She's no longer in the sustainability coordinator position, and it's now quarterly, I believe. It's not once a month. It's there probably wouldn't be another one until 3 months from now. Don't take my word for it, but I believe it's quarterly now.
If one of you could pass that along to me, I'll see if Shannon and I could attend, and then we'll get on the distribution list for that. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
That'd be great.
Is that the kind of thing that members of this committee ought to be following, sort of like we've talked about or are you already doing that?
Yeah, Shelley and I usually are there if one of us can make it.
Good.
Shelley's very, just to trump your horn for a second, and to make sure that the staff is aware too. She's doing a lot of work with the district on sustainability efforts, so that may be something that we could talk about later on. We have time on the agenda, or maybe you are. Sorry. Behind the scenes, but I just want to make sure people in this committee know.
That's great.
Yeah.
Listen, I was bragging about my podcast earlier, so we need to do a little bit more of amplifying the work we're doing. I want to hear it, so thank you for
She's too
raising
shy
it.
to say it.
Yeah, someone has to do it.
Shoot her own horn, so I'll do it for her.
Now that we've made Shelley blush, shall we move on to our presentation on municipal solar policy? Right, Mr. Banfield and Mr. Parker, will you please introduce yourselves for the minutes and for the attendees on Zoom?
Dean Danfield, 73 Walden Terrace.
Charlie Parker, 105 Chestnut Street.
Go ahead whenever you're ready.
I think the best thing to do is to
Can I share screen?
Yes, I made you a photo so you can share your screen.
While they're setting this up, if you've got it on your laptop already in your meeting packet, the text of their proposal is on page 18. And if you want to take a longer look at one of their slides or go back to something, their slides that they're about to show you are pages 19 to 26.
Sure, yeah. Just get ready. You're back.
Okay. So
Let's try to see if we can move it soon.
Just to level set here, these are the studies and goals for solar that the town's been through since back in 2010. The only time we had an independent committee kind of get involved was in 2011. Hugh Lauer ran a committee that determined that we should move the number down from something that CMLP had sort of put as a big goal in, back in 2010, but this was done by a committee to bring it down to 2020 to 22. And then in 2021, which is 10 years later, was when we set the 20 goal in the climate action plan. And all of those were more or less driven by looking at the demand side. How much energy does the town consume, and what fraction of that do we hope we can get from solar? But I don't know that there was a lot done to figure out where can we put it and how much could realistically go on the acreage that we have access to. So the Solar Task Force was set up in 2024 and reported that really we think the maximum potential based on the capacity of existing panel technology, the areas of the town that we have the right to put stuff on, and the feasibility of putting it on, looked like about 14 total megawatts. Now that included 7.5 that had already been built out. That included, I got another slide for that. So here's what we did, 48K in 2010. And then we had the landfill, we had the Grace property, and then we just stopped. There was a moratorium. A lot of that was driven by the fact that CMLP itself was starting to have distribution issues with too much solar. They were not encouraging large scale additional arrays being added to the town's grid. And then in 26, this year, we hope by the end of the year to have an upgrade over at the landfill from 1.7 up to 4.2, an additional, that adds 2.5, and that's being done by replacing all the panels that are over there with more productive panels and adding area. So there's two things going on there. And in 2026, we hope to get the CMS array that was designed at 1.2 to go live. Right now, we all know that's not going very well. So in the middle of all that, the Solar Task Force came up with, we came up with that number 14, which was as far as we could see that we could create. So one of the recommendations that we made was that we should take advantage of the rooftops that are on town buildings. And we also saw the experience, we could see the experience that was occurring over at CMS, where we bid out a building. We said that the building should be solar ready. And then we came back with a secondary project and said, CMLP, you should put arrays on the solar ready building. And that we are now seeing, it's not a good fit. You have two owners, so to speak, who have shared responsibility for the building and the arrays, and they have to overlap their core management tasks. And in addition to that, the CMLP can only get value out of that at the wholesale rate. So you have arrays on the building, and the best that CMLP is going to need to justify that with is what they can buy from the grid, from a mountaintop in Maine or from a big array in Connecticut. So they need to make economic sense. Otherwise, it's not a wise choice for CMLP to be putting up arrays on buildings. So the report recommended that we have integrated design bidding. So if we build a new building, the building should come with solar. It's that simple. If you do it at the front end, you get one bid, you have one contract, you have one project manager, and you don't have overlap. That's one of the reasons we don't have them on the middle school today, is because the timeline to get the kids into the building in February was so tight that the school kind of brought the hammer down and said that the arrays have to back off all the pillars to put up canopies and all that stuff in the parking lot. It's gonna confuse our project's timeline. And if we miss that 1 week window, our next window is April. That'll screw up the fields, it'll screw up the demolition of the other building. Everything will be really screwed up. So they forced the project to back way off and wait. And that's the kind of problem that we really don't want to see. If you had an integrated design, it would be in the bid, it would be a subcontractor who is doing the work, consistent and coordinated by the overall project manager, and there wouldn't be these competing projects. So we recommended that you do an integrated design and you put rooftop solar on all new public buildings. And this helps us, this is mom and apple pie, really. These are the basic points that are good for all solar. You're putting in our backyard, we're not asking Maine to cut down trees on top of a mountain so we can put wind up there and buy their solar and claim that we're energy is all renewable. We're doing it right in our backyard, and it eases the stress because you don't have all that transmission that needs to be done. It's right there on the building. It reduces the operating costs for the building long term, and it's aligned with our goals. So there you go. The implications here is that it gives clear guidance, and we have a single opportunity for maintenance going forward. That's another problem that I already alluded to. Not only do we have the project overlaps where the two projects are competing with each other, but you have a maintenance responsibility overlap where the school's being maintained by the school committee and the arrays are going to be maintained by CMLP. That's not a plan. So it's single entity. If this is on the school building, if it's on a new school building, the schools will be responsible for full maintenance. Just they're responsible for their chillers on the roof, or making sure that the floors are waxed. It's part of the maintenance of the building. And the payback period looks like with the embedding of debt. And one of the benefits of the debt service in this particular case is that if we're building an array after the fact, and these projects can be done after the fact, and then the maintenance could still be owned by the school. It's certainly the case that the town could decide to put a set of arrays on a building and then have the town and the building management be integrated. It doesn't have to be CMLP doing it, but the payback period, because it would be what's called tier 2 debt, which calls for debt within the levy limit, is usually between 5 and 10 years. You got to pay that back. So, and in this particular case, you can stretch it out. You can stretch it out because you're putting it into the building, and buildings are usually at 25-year debt interval. In the case of CMS, we push the envelope on that. It's 30 years. We got 30-year debt payback on CMS. And the payback period likely be about 6 to 8 years with the debt embedded in there. If you don't include debt, if you just look at the capital you're putting in and how long it's going to take to just pay back the capital, it's more like 3 to 5. And we looked at a couple of different scenarios with CMS. It would be an array that would cost just the roof would be about 1.15 million to put that on there. So it's between 1 and 1.5% upcharge on your building to have solar on your building. That on that scale of building, obviously we build smaller building, it might get into 2%, or it might get a little higher, but not dramatically. I don't think it's not going to get over this. Each building will be different depending on how much you're spending on the interior side. Like if you're going to build a salt storage shed and put solar on top of it, the building itself is very inexpensive. It will obviously add more than a percentage point. But if you're building an expensive structure with a lot of sophistication on the inside of the building, then it won't add that much to the thing, So doing it on any given building is a one at a time calculation. It's not something you can make a general comment about. But on the middle school, it would have been about 1.2%, we think. So this is a warrant article, okay? It's going to codify as a bylaw, meaning that nobody, the select board, nobody has an opportunity to remove it unless town meeting votes to take it off. It's not a policy. which is something that the select board can selectively decide to put on and selectively decide to take off. This is a bylaw. So it's going in and it provides a lower limit for if you're building a small building, storage structure, or something that's not electrified or et cetera, there's a lower limit. The arrays are current, the number that's in here, does everybody have a copy of this? Would anybody like a copy of this? I can pass it around. It's in the packet, but it's always nice to have something in front of you. So there's a lower limit, which the lower limit's in there right now is like, I think it's 7,500 kilowatts, which is about the size of a large residential array. So you build a building that's gonna be able to hold a large residential array, it's gotta come with solar. And it provides a mechanism where the select board can, at their discretion, waive it. If somebody appeals to the select board, they can waive it. So. Anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
I got a couple of comments on the plan, on the work that we did, the recommendations. Some of the context for this is the fact that we tried to sort, one of the objectives was to sort out where the light plant really fit into solar going forward. And there are three different kinds, basically kinds of solar that you can build. You can build it on the ground, you can build it on rooftops, and you can build it on parking lots. At least that's the way kind of we conceptualize the opportunities. And when you do the financial analysis of what makes sense and what really is a possibility for the light plant and what doesn't fit under the light plant's purview, you know, the only one that really works for them, or the only one that really works for them is rooftops on town-owned property. So town-owned rooftops, because you can't.
All it works for them is ground mount.
Ground mount.
Ground mount is the only thing that works for.
Well, no, ground mount, actually, I guess we could say ground mount works, but there is no land. That's the other point of what we came up with. There really is no other opportunity in Concord for ground mount on town-owned land. Now, you know, someone can throw up some land that, you know, is privately owned, and we can pursue that. There may be other pieces of land in the future, like 2229 and so forth, but these are not available to us today. So there's only really one chance that we have to, you know, basically say, going forward, you know, the opportunity for the light plant is on these rooftops. That's it. Now, if other land becomes available, okay, good. But in terms of our analysis, the only land that was available, the only opportunity that was available was on these rooftops. So that's why it's important to put a collar on what we have available to us and kind of secure it so that it's not debated in the future, because it's all that's there. This also kind of gets the confusion out of the system in terms of, well, why are we going to have more solar? Okay, well, tell us where the land is. We've done the analysis and it simply isn't there today. So that's the context. So it's rooftops, publicly owned buildings. That's it. That's all we got. That's the only one that really fits, is financially viable also for the CMOP. The cost of putting up canopies and putting up you know, solar on parking lots is just prohibitive. Just massively prohibitive, and embodied carbon is a problem too, so we kind of rule that out.
It's interesting that it's prohibitive, but other IOU towns have done it.
Well, but those are IOU towns.
If you look at the bill from an IOU customer, they have a specific slice of what they pay,
Yeah.
which is their regulatory fee. And they're collecting that from every customer on every kilowatt hour, and that's how they're funding these things that don't
Yeah.
pay. They're required to find places to put solar, and they're charging their customer for what they're calling a regulatory fee. Now, CMLP does not have a line item for your regulatory fee.
Are there any towns that have a bylaw like this?
This is,
I'm unaware.
well, I don't know if they have bylaws, but you know, this has been written about. We're not uncommon here, creating a policy position for the town.
I have a comment on the warrant quickly that, requiring all new buildings, some may not be technically feasible because let's say your roof orientation is not appropriate. Or if the building has a lot of trees around it that you're envisioning,
Right.
that wouldn't be appropriate. I'm just concerned that the wording, that word all new public buildings.
Well, there's always an out clause where they can go to the select board and say, we're building this building and it's surrounded by the forest and it is it's a one-story ranch style building. And so the sun can never get to this roof. Can you give us an
But
exemption?
is
And they can say
that,
yes.
will that be part of the warrant though? Because right now, it didn't jump out at me that there is an out
It's the last bullet.
exception.
exception.
Okay, got it.
The other way to think about it is there's only a very few buildings that we're gonna be building,
Okay,
very few that are of the size that would qualify for this article.
okay. I have another question. How is excess power treated in Concord? Does CMLP, they're required to buy it and at what rate?
They are.
And at what rate? It's kind of
They
confusing.
buy it at a very modest,
So
ridiculous.
it's not retail, they're not buying it.
They're not buying it.
But for a homeowner, are they buying it at retail?
No,
Okay,
I think they're buying it back at like 5 cents or something. I could,
5 cent above,
no.
only 5 cents a
Like
kilowatt
if
hour?
you're paying 18 cents a kilowatt hour, they're paying you 5 cents. If you shovel a kilowatt hour to them, they'll pay you like 5. It's
And
not a great deal. Let's
And
put
it's changing with the time of use,
Okay.
time of day rate.
And then the only last question I had is, does the ability to do power purchase agreements and have a third party independent?
That's not an option within the CMLP.
Okay, I figured it was not a lot then. Because I know other schools like Sudbury did really well, I think, on a PPA.
Yeah, I think they have canopies. They have a PPA. They canopy.
Well, the IOUs,
Yeah.
that's the way to do it.
Right,
It's all IOU.
That's not an option within.
So again, because we have our own light plant, that's restricted us from doing a lot, it sounds like.
Yes.
So, okay, sorry.
I have a question here on Google.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is very interesting, nice work. I'm just curious, in terms of, total megawatt hours that Concord uses, how much would 14 megawatts of solar provide in terms of percentage, do you know?
It's like 6 or something. I think it's like 6.
Okay, so it's
But,
not,
you know, the numbers are not.
Well, the new school at 1.2
1.2.
is 1.5 million. Kilowatt hour, you're talking about kilowatt hours?
What percentage of our Concord?
Concord's consumption?
yeah, total energy.
Little energy would 14
Town?
megawatt be.
Town or the whole?
Well, like.
The whole
Concord, yeah,
CMLP service
yeah,
area.
yeah,
I think it's something in the 6%.
okay, so it's not, okay, I'm just curious, and then what's behind the meter main?
Okay, behind the meter means that the electricity is produced at that building and feeds into the building before anything goes out onto the grid.
Okay,
And so your meter would run in reverse, meaning it's behind it. It runs in reverse. If you have excess to give to the grid, your meter runs in reverse and they then pay you that very modest, like 5 cents a kilowatt hour. So that's what needs to be behind
okay,
it.
and Bob alluded to this, but the 14 megawatts, that's assuming a certain construction of public buildings.
No, the 14 megawatts was a maximum that we could see. In the solar task force, we identified at least 4 properties within the community where more ground mount solar could be constructed. We're at 7.5, we'll be at about 8.7 if we get the full 1.2
Yeah.
from the middle school. And we're gonna add another 2.5 at the landfill when that's reconstructed. But there were 3 other properties that we identified, all of which have severe bureaucratic blocks that would cause us trouble getting anything built there. One is the area between the BD Center and the high school parking lot. There's a big drainage basin there that's wide open to the sun and would be an ideal place to put solar. The school committee was not happy to put it there. Another would be, there are some filter beds at the sewage treatment plant that are not used, but they need to be reserved for possible. Right now, we're at absolute max of our sewer capacity, and we don't have any easy way to go forward to increase it, and those filter beds are not being used. We could put stuff on top of those, but Alan Cathcart is not happy to think about, he always wants to preserve everything in case something breaks and we can actually add sewer capacity, so that's a problem. And there's a agricultural field near the nice little league diamond over at Ripley. It goes all the way back down to Bedford Street. We would take several acres of that. And, you know, just say to the farmer, you only farm that from here down to, you know, behind the Heritage down to towards Bedford Street. Or Lexington Road, I mean. And we'll take the rest of that for solar. But that, you gotta give them notice, you gotta say, we're gonna take it, use it. It's a big administrative headache. So those are the places we identified to get us to 14.
Okay, that doesn't include newly constructed public buildings.
Yeah, but in the end, newly constructed public buildings are going to be pretty modest. The size and scale of the middle school, if you just look at the roof of that, you're gonna get about 650 kilowatts, not megawatts, it's 0.65 megawatts. So you're not, and we're not gonna build that many buildings of that scale again soon. So a more realistic number will probably be something like 400 kilowatts on a good sized building.
2 to 400.
2 to 400, yeah.
I had a question on you guys mentioned that there was, the distribution issues have affected the build out historically, the
Yes.
distribution system.
Yes.
Issues. And to what degree has that impacted the commercial industrial customers for them to fund their own rooftop PV?
Seriously.
So
It
is that,
seriously.
is that a low hanging fruit for us to somehow push CMLP to?
You're talking about commercial now, right?
Yeah, so if you wanted to.
Commercial, not part of the article.
So it's not part of the article, this is for public buildings.
Yeah.
But just as an example, 300 Baker Avenue was very interested in putting up solar. However, the scale of their array would be such that, and the side of the distribution system that would connect to is the one that's under stress. That they were really
feedback to the system?
they would have certain, well, it isn't necessarily that they're feeding back. They could maybe be eating all the energy that they were generating. But what that does is it draws load off of the system when they're generating. That means that the system itself is, you know, because
Isn't that a good thing?
unbalanced.
Has been a good thing?
It feels like a good thing, but I have a whole other presentation on how that could be a not good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the analysis we did and the work we did with the light plan addressed the commercial build out. You know, in a way that's reasonably sufficient for now, or maybe for the next 10 years. They aren't exactly, you know, tearing up the street, you know, coming at us to build solar on, you know, various facilities. But the battery plans, you know, are really all about that.
Okay.
They're all about enabling the expansion of solar to include the commercial stuff where it may occur.
Yeah.
What was the total battery plan? Did they
I.
8 megawatts, something like that? Big, you know, the big battery thing,
Sure,
you know.
Let's go back to the warrant article that finally ended up on warrant 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Just
Yes.
to what extent does this tie into adaptation resilience? I'm just looking at your slide on the benefits. I'm wondering if there could be a bullet around, like, I'm thinking about the distribution problems, but and understanding the load, but as we move forward, think about 20, 30 years from now.
Yep.
Is a like more decentralized system where there's behind the meter solar energy actually a way to kind of build out some adaptation resilience for major weather events, you know, electrical outages could.
I think the key to that is probably more storage than it is necessarily solar, because storage allows you to then even things out and really manage your way through problems where, you know, that you're in the middle of a storm situation and you've lost some level of connectivity to the outer grid or something. So, you know, this is where you get into virtual power plants, where you're kind of sucking the life out of the school buses and anybody's home car battery and the batteries in people's garages. And maybe we put up some big batteries, And that's how you generate the resilience that you're kind of alluding to.
But the
is-
soul, like, kind of in our backyard, keeping it local versus
Right.
drawing from Maine or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just wondering,
probably-
as we think about our kind of an action plan and think about
Yeah.
adaptation and resilience, I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if
Yeah.
there's a tie in there.
I think the tie-in is kind of marrying, and I get to this in a second, but kind of marrying storage to solar and having them work synergistically. But to come back to that question, this proposal does potentially cause the town to build an array on top of a building that may, in fact, put stress on our local grid because it is either using electricity when the light plant wants to be delivering electricity, and so therefore the light plant has electricity that is gonna come in and where's it gonna go? So it could put stress on our local distribution system, but one of the things that this article has in here is it says that you do this consistent with CMLP policy. And we've been working with Jason Bulger over at the Light Plant to see if he can construct what are called interconnect agreements. And an interconnect agreement to a town building could include a clause that says, if our grid is getting under stress, we can turn off your solar and have it stop. You know, we can what's called curtail the use of your solar in order to protect our grid. Now, usually when you put an array on your house and you're generating solar, the town doesn't have any right to come to you and say, stop generating. We don't want, even if all you're doing is using the electricity inside your house, it could still harm the grid. Which is a weird concept, but yes, it could still harm the grid. But this would allow the light plant to reach into these municipal buildings and say, you need to curtail what you're doing with solar right now because our grid is under stress. And so those are the kinds of interconnect agreements, and this policy does anticipate that by saying that it will be done as required by CMLP policy.
CMLP though didn't think there's any problem with these buildings, with this policy.
No, they don't really think
They're okay with this.
Yeah, they're
CMLP
okay.
is good.
Yeah, they're good.
They're all good.
But coming back to your question about commercial buildings, et cetera, there have been problems with even the library wanting to put solar on the library. And they were sort of pushed back against, you know, because of the kinds of stresses that would be added to our grid. There were.
That pushback came from CMLP?
Well, under the previous administration, yes.
Yeah.
Dave Wood was the previous director, and the answer is yes. 300 Baker Avenue wanted to put a big array up, and one of the ways, other than having the CMLP reach into their array and tell them, you can't use electricity right now from your solar, we have to turn this off, which we could curtail it. The alternative proposal for them was to tell them you must buy a battery, so that in the event that you're generating electricity and the grid cannot accept it, you have to throw it into your battery. And that created an enormous expense for them, and they weren't that interested in buying a large scale battery to go with the building. So it has caused problems. But in this particular case, because it's all municipal, the CMLP could create an interconnect agreement where they could ask the building or tell the building to curtail their electricity use from their system. So,
Fran, what do you have?
You're kind of touching on it, but specifically with respect to this warrant article, do you have an indication that CMLP will approve it? Will you know, speak favorably about it, or is that an ongoing discussion?
They already have.
they already have. I think we've kind of run this under the noses of folks over at the light plant, and I think that they don't see anything wrong with it. Let's put it that way.
Well, they agreed to the report. They participated in the analysis and in the recommendations. This is one of the recommendations, so they agreed to it at that time.
Yeah.
Jason,
So it would be nice to get them to actually speak positively about this at town meeting and so forth. I'm sure you're working on that. But then longer term, it was mentioned that we're doing this 5-year update of the Climate Action and Resilience Plan. I hope that the thinking that you guys are doing, we can find a way to work into the plan. And we need a solar plank. And I think CMLP is, as you've suggested, more constructive. But we really need to have a clear, solar strategy that doesn't involve having, people fighting against it within the town bureaucracy. So we're looking forward to those discussions, I guess. Encourage you to stay involved in this process.
Our experience in the turnover of the directorship at the light plant has been like night and day in
Right,
terms of that.
right.
Jason Bulger is very interested in engagement with our sustainability goals. And he's taken these kinds of recommendations from the solar task force report to heart, and he's pushing forward with them. One of the ones that's in here was expand the landfill, and that is expected to go live sometime in 2026. So, he is moving forward on the priorities that are things that the light plant can't do. So that's.
So, in a sense, we're done with solar, and these rooftops are it.
Yeah.
What we need is the rollout of the batteries. If we get the rollout of the batteries, then we can get additional commercial encouraged in town.
Yeah.
Because you need the batteries to deal with the grid, with the loading of the grid. So you get what I'm saying here?
Yes.
We're
I agree
done.
with what you're saying
I don't
on
necessarily-
batteries. Could I just comment, though, that you've used a couple of terms that sort of like we're done with solar and prohibitively expensive. I mean, I don't think it's helpful to have, any sort of random solar projects that people might consider in the future, sort of discouraging people from exploring that stuff by oversimplifying the case just to focus on what you're doing here, which is positive. And I get the focus on priorities, but be a little careful, please.
Let me fix that. Let me fix my comment then. What I'm saying is the focus for the light plant needs to be on getting the rollout completed on the storage. And that's a big job. There is no more solar on town-owned properties in the forecast. There's no, in the plan. It isn't there. But once you get the batteries rolled out, then the other participants can come in and take advantage of the grid, which they can't do today. So it's not really a matter of really the vibes. It's a matter of getting this engineering stuff done and getting it advertised to people that want to do things, like the Baker Avenue people who have gone a little bit silent on us because of the ambivalence on the rollout of the storage stuff. So storage is key, and that was the key in terms of the whole plan that we put together, is get the storage squared away.
The other thing I want to mention is that there are two things on the horizon that are town opportunities that were not part of the Solar Task Force report, other than to say they are out on the horizon and we can't touch them today. And that's 2229 and the MCI property. And they are ripe for some kind of policy which says whatever's going on in those developments or those build outs, solar is a part of those, if we take advantage of the opportunity at 2229, which seems likely, if we are encouraged by the state to do something very significant with the MCI property, solar should be an integral part of how that is designed to be created. Whatever, it could be anything. It could be a mixed use, commercial, residential, MCI, campus of some kind, but a solar component to that should be on roofs. It should be, there should be a field of drainage basins that have solar on top of them. It's part of the way we think about how it gets built out. That's all. So those are still all out on the horizon, but they are not something that our report could really point to as something we could put in our numbers. So 14 is what we can get to if we want to kind of, like the Kool-Aid man, kind of burst through the wall on a couple of these different properties where there are chances for us to put solar on ground mounts. But right now, the experience.
I wonder if let's kind of I just would encourage this to be a little bit more flexible. I know you guys have focused and I know that it is the most cost effective to do rooftop PV. But we also know that there are many new technologies involving PV that have been demonstrated all over the world. Things like floating PV arrays in Japan.
Yeah.
They have translucent PV for window panes that they're getting breakthroughs.
Yeah.
There's all types of, there's the balcony systems now that have been in the press a lot. It'd be nice if you could find a way to include language or other cost-effective technologies, not just.
But this is required for something to be done, you know.
It just says, I think, I'm just concerned that it's gonna. Somebody might have a cost-effective technology and it won't fit into this box of rooftop PV, that's all.
The out for that though would be going to the select board and pleading a case.
As an exception, okay, as this last bullet, an exception to the bylaw.
So in terms of things to do, if you're looking for stuff to put in the plan, what really needs to happen, after we kind of get squared away here, and we lock in those rooftops that are coming along, is to do some sort of rollout to the commercial side of the opportunity and make sure they understand. Do that with the light plant. Light plant is really not a marketing organization, but somebody needs to market out to, the Fenn schools, all the institutional stuff, Baker Avenue, whatever. We need to get, a push on the commercial side, but we can't do it now because the infrastructure's not there.
I know for a
So
fact
to get the infrastructure
Fenn
in,
was discouraged, that they had.
yeah, they were
They
discouraged.
were discouraged.
Yeah,
From.
it's weird because I know they wanted a battery a long time ago, and
Well, they were discouraged even with the battery, I think.
I think there was.
So, but there is some work to be done to straighten out the messaging so that people like Fenn or, Baker Avenue don't end up coming to endless meetings and finding out, well, we have to look into this a little more. We're not so sure. This is, this is ambiguous. Can you straighten this out for us so we can pick a plan? And I think these Baker Avenue people, they must have gone to a dozen different meetings with the town, and they had the money ready to go. And I think times may have changed with the incentives so that they got discouraged, but you gotta seize the opportunity when it's there. And if you don't have the policies and the marketing and the grease so that they can, get going on these things, they get discouraged and it doesn't happen. So
Charlie,
that's
are you saying that work is already sort of underway with the light plant, or that we need to be advocating that kind of infrastructure planning and investment is initiated?
Well, I think that somebody needs to be on top of the infrastructure planning in terms of the rollout of the battery stuff, the infrastructure. The enabling piece of it needs to be sorted, and I'm sure they have their own plan, but I think you should understand it, and then you should advocate for what we need, to get more solar out of the commercial side of the town. So
I think that should be definitely part of our plan.
So that's one piece. Okay, the infrastructure piece and rationalizing that. Okay, and then you've got the marketing piece and the outreach to the I don't know who the commercial entities are that you would outreach to, the board of
Emerson Hospital.
Well, I know Emerson Hospital. What is the Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah.
Supervisor. These kinds of organizations, and people will say, yeah, we're trying to do that, and couldn't do it. And, well,
Yeah,
maybe you can now. Pardon me?
There's a lot of areas we need to reach out to commercial in terms of heating as well. We haven't done that.
It may,
But I guess
it
the
may
point-
behoove us to stick to the four corners of what you've got.
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah, but
Today, I don't want to get too much.
With this.
In light of what Fran was saying, I was just trying to respond to Fran's comment. I didn't mean to be throwing water on things here.
Yeah.
But I mean, the real opportunity is kind of what we said, lock in the roofs, but then get going on the storage, get going on the commercial side. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. So, and you guys could do that.
May I ask just a few things about the mechanics of where you are right now with this petition and who you talked to, who you still need to do, what work you've got next?
Okay,
Where are you right now on the filing of
The
this?
mechanics of it are that Tari has it now. It's all signed up. We had 15 signatures on the sheet and handed it in. So this is the language. We're all set.
Are you pursuing any kind of negotiations with any town policymakers to try to obviate the need to go to town meeting?
Well, we had conversations with a few different select board members, and I nudged the select board publicly at a few meetings, and I haven't seen anything going onto their agenda yet to create this policy, which would have been the way that we would have anticipated this happening when the report was issued in May of 2024. We are now in January of 2026 and still haven't seen any forward motion. So this is why I'm bringing this, is because we want to see it enacted.
And your posture in your preamble to this presentation was it's preferable to you to have this as a bylaw. If the select board hypothetically were to ratify a policy of the town, would you still be wanting to pursue this as a bylaw?
If they were to turn around in the next, between now and town meeting and basically enact this as a policy, there's no real reason to move it. I don't think it's, I don't think the select board would enact it. What I wouldn't be thrilled about is if the language got very loose and muddy, and that would cause some discussion. But obviously, if they were to enact this straight up like that as a policy, I don't need to create a bylaw. There's no need for that kind of legacy on the town's books. It's
Being a
fine.
signatory to that document, I slightly disagree. I think it's a good idea to bring the town's attention to this. And because these things get lost, you go around and look for this document on the website, you won't find it. This stuff, is forgotten. We have very little ability to take advantage of our history, of the work we've done. All the work we did to insulate these buildings, nobody knows where that is. A lot of stuff goes on and it kind of disappears off the side. I think if you have a bylaw, your chances of avoiding the problems we had, last time are pretty good. And by the way, there's some bylaws that no peeing in public, things like this. But what are the bylaws?
I went through all the bylaws to see, like, am I just gonna pollute the town's, chartered bylaws with some little thing that could just easily be a policy that the select board manages? And there are some pretty funky bylaws there. You cannot ride your horse on the sidewalk. That's a good one. You cannot leave your rubbish in the street or on public property. That's another one.
The select board's training committee. Hasn't been done.
You can't keep on your neighbors, Wendy. You can't keep on your neighbors.
There's a lot of those, so, new committees being part of the review bylaw.
Oh, yeah, with a chair and everything like this, in charge, a little bit. But we do have one bylaw that's pretty important. It's Brad's bylaw that, is emblazoned in there. Which one?
Which one was that?
The natural gas one.
Natural gas one.
It's a bylaw.
Isn't that a bylaw? Your no gas infrastructure bylaw.
Yeah.
So in further defense of this is one of the only tools we have to codify things that have to do with standards. Now, if you want to hope for the best, put it in a folder somewhere as something or other policy. I don't think that's going to get you much.
I've got just a couple more questions before we move this along. We've got this whole effort right now with the land use working group, try to identify efficiencies in the placement of municipal employees. In part, one of the calculations there is going to be what the cost of running a building is. Have you done any of your homework and due diligence to be in touch with those people, figure out how this could affect their ongoing work?
Haven't talked to them, but the clear separation here would be the difference between the debt load, which is carried in one area of the town's books, and the actual operating cost of the building, and this will bring the cost of the electrical consumption down by definition. So the operating cost of a building with solar panels on the roof will by definition be lower because you're gonna be generating some percentage of your electricity off the roof.
I think it may just be good to ensure that you have a conversation, maybe not one of their meetings, but offline.
Yeah.
To check in with each other so they know you exist,
Okay,
because it would be a substantial change to, I think, some of the calculation going on there.
okay.
It could be problematic.
Not huge.
It could be. I don't want to speak for them. I'm not, I'm not up on everything.
But I think it's good just for awareness,
Yeah.
just to then feel
I think it would
like
be.
we're included.
And Megan, did you ever have a chance to check in with Russ and see where his head is at on and where facilities head is at on this issue?
Hi, yes, we did have some preliminary conversations. But now, I think when we were looking at it, it was a policy for consideration, and now that it's a a citizen's petition, I think it will go through the typical hearing process. And I don't think I have too many things to say today. I think one piece of comment when looking at it is just some suggestions regarding like clarified language. When we're looking at let me just pull it up here. When we're looking at and I think some of these things usually just get clarified as if they're bylaws, they get clarified in time, through the process. But when we're looking at how they will be designed seamlessly with the building's architecture, functional aesthetic elements of the exterior, just kind of like who is determining that and how is that being judged? That those are just the kinds of things that come up when applications or when real life examples come through policies like this. We also discussed the orientation of the building, and just thinking about how there's so many different factors that builders and property owners to the town kind of looks at when deciding how to site a building on a property, and this is one factor. That's something else that came up in discussion.
So to answer that second,
750.
yeah, to answer that second question, most municipal buildings tend to be flat roof. We end up with a big conversation in Concord about how we always want these peaked roofs. We always want, the Alcott School ended up with a little bit of peaked roof, but the rest of the whole building is a flat roof. So a flat roof is by definition an opportunity for perfect orientation. You just angle the panels the way they're gonna go and you get the right orientation. So we did have a clause in here and went through some editorial back and forth on it that said that we should work to orient the building to optimize solar gain and the solar orientation of the panels on the roof. We took that out to try to just simplify, everybody's, life.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I think I was looking at an older one when we were working through that. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
What's still left in there is that it'll be designed to blend seamlessly with the architecture, serving both as a functional and aesthetic element of the exterior. It's a pretty generic statement of trying to be elegant and functional, a sort of shaker kind of,
I got a little comment on this too, buildings need to be designed for sustainability.
Yeah.
That's what we're supposed to be doing, right? And that's what you all are supposed to be doing, helping us with that. So, you have to take this holistic approach when we're looking at, electric powered, heat. We want to have good access to solar light. There's still stuff we did with the school. You want to design a building that is optimized for the environment and for sustainability. And, the sustainability piece is not a separate piece. You can figure out how to get a building that comes in at a certain price, and then we're gonna worry about the sustainability. That's what we're trying to get rid of here. And I think that's why we were successful and have been successful with a lot of the stuff I'm on the building committee for the school. And so, we were, I've been very successful with that because we had a set of principles that we were mandated to follow in the design process. So I think that's kind of where we want to go with the thinking here.
One final quick question, what is the number supposed to be in the first bullet point? Not 7,500 kilowatts, but 7.5 kilowatts?
No,
The first bullet point says applies to electrified buildings that can support
It's 7.5
75.
megawatt.
70.
Too big.
Does it say 7.5 kW?
it says
It says 7.5 megawatts, actually.
Yeah.
7,500 kilowatts.
7.5 megawatts.
No,
Too big.
7.5 kW capacity.
Yeah. so
7.5,
there's a
sorry, it's.
We have the extra zero there, yeah. You're right.
7.5.
7.5.
Yeah, that's
7.5.
Good catch from Brad.
That's a good one.
Good.
You did good.
Sorry.
You did very good.
So we've spent about twice as long on this as we were intending to tonight.
It was our beer time.
Does the chair hear any sentiments on future deliberation on this and or any motions?
We want to support it. I would make a motion that we support it. And do what we can to promote it.
To be clear, are you moving a formal endorsement of this article at this time?
Yeah.
Okay. Is the chair a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I'm a little, I love what this is about, but I'm concerned about the commercial industrial barriers in the town, and I don't fully understand the issue with the distribution system.
Well, that's not related.
Well, why shouldn't the commercial industrial sector have to go through a bylaw if they?
Let me see if I can answer that question real quick. The town has a goal. We have a sustainability goal.
Yeah.
For
town
solar
itself.
on town-owned land.
And this is what this applies to.
So, and you have it in your,
Yeah.
at least you used to have it in the plan. So what we were set up to do was to address the town-owned
Okay.
stuff. That's what our committee did. So
So
you're
that's what
right,
this is
but you're
focused.
right. The other pieces should be done too.
Yeah, that's what concerns me, the other pieces.
Well, and to be clear on this whole conversation about the 14 figure, the reason that that's important is that even if we are busting down the wall like a Kool-Aid man, and we get to that 14 figure, it's still well below what the current climate action plan is calling for solar generation. We're not gonna get close to what we set as goal. Even if we do this, too.
No. I think we should have a vote. I think there's been a motion, right?
Yeah.
And you said seconded.
But it's debatable, so we can.
You asked for
Yes.
discussion.
I would love there to be no more discussion and move straight to a vote, but we have to get that opportunity. Fran, go ahead.
I'll just mention that I signed the papers to put this on the warrant. So I don't think there's probably any conflict in voting for it on a committee here, but if anybody knows about that, they should speak up now.
Shannon says no.
No, you can vote.
Okay, I'm ready.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll have to do this by roll as well. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye, and noes, signify by saying no. Bob?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Catherine?
Aye.
Shelley?
Yeah.
Paul? Fran?
Aye. Aye.
Chair votes aye. We unanimously endorse affirmative action on this warrant article.
Fascinating, because it hasn't even been published yet. That's the first.
It was just.
You're lucky you did that, so if we're gonna have you hit you with tariffs.
It was just handed into the clerk today, so.
Well, it took us twice as long as we planned in our conversation, but we can still claim that we were efficient because of that.
It was a good
You
discussion.
don't have to come back for your
Great discussion.
warrant review or re-endorsement.
Exactly. All right, so I would like to move on now to the climate action plan, and I would like to remind everybody that we are still hoping to be done before 9 o'clock if we can be. So Shannon, would you like to share with us? Shannon's memo is in the meeting packets, pages 16 and 17.
Yes, So Megan and we met with Robin and Cassidy from Weston and Sampson on Friday to have just a short internal check-in to sort of touch base about kicking things off. In the packet, I'm going to continue to put their timeline graphic in here for your monthly meetings, so we can just check in with exactly where on the timeline we're at. Looking at task 1 for, the first month of their work, which really is January, is they're going to be reviewing the 2020 plan and some other relevant town planning documents. So those were all shared with them already. And they think by the next time we check in with them, they'll have already reviewed those and will let us know if they need anything else. That then already brings us to starting to develop the community and stakeholder engagement plan and kicking off with the climate action committee. So they said that they will be able to attend the February 11th meeting. And when you look at the timeline graphic, really, the kind of green oval is the icon for the climate action committee. They're going to be attending essentially every other month at the formal climate action committee meetings, but I don't think that means that that's going to be the only time that we'll be able to interact with them, either as individual members or however that might work, but that's just how they structured the meetings with the full committee. So for the next committee meeting, I have an action item highlighted here that we would like the committee members to put together like a 1-paragraph bio of your background, interest, and expertise in sustainability. I know you all have very different backgrounds and other interests, so it would be great if we can put those in writing. So at the February meeting, we're not spending a great deal of time on introductions. And then also, they were hoping to utilize those bios moving forward with some of the other ways that committee members could continue to meet with them. So, on a staff level, Megan and I will be checking in with them a bit more frequently, and depending on your expertise or points of interest, we would be able to invite members with those interests to those meetings. Additionally, they are also doing, beyond the main community engagement workshops, they're doing stakeholder interviews, and I think they imagine those being smaller group interviews versus the full community workshops. And it would also be good to know where committee members' interests and expertise lie in those stakeholder interviews.
When do you want those bios?
So I was going to give you guys a little bit more time. I had written down on the paper Friday, February 6th.
Is there any reason that anybody can't do this in the next 2 days? Get it to her by Friday?
I'm traveling.
Okay.
So, I mean, I could get it next week.
Are you traveling on an airplane? Can you type a paragraph when you're on the
I don't
airplane?
wanna bring my laptop.
Can everybody except for you get it to her by Friday? And
You know what, I'll do it
as soon as
tomorrow.
possible. Perfect, good answer. Can everybody else do it by Friday?
Like,
This Friday?
1 paragraph about yourself with a picture.
End of the day.
Picture of your face, so that they know what you look like and it's friendlier.
You
You
said
write down all
Friday,
this.
February 6th. You want-
I'll send this to you
Friday
all
the
again,
6th.
yeah.
So
No
again,
problem.
And also,
Our
February 11th, that's not the third Wednesday.
I think we bumped it up because of February break. Was that the logical?
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
You don't want like a video or anything like that?
No, sir.
1 paragraph background on our experience with sustainability.
Yeah.
I can do it. But,
Let's all get it to Shannon by close of business on Friday. That way you don't have a thing on your to-do list hanging over your vacation.
My mother's 99th birthday.
Wow.
Wow.
Get this out of the way before
doing
that,
it.
absolutely.
That's a nice celebration.
What else can we do?
So the other things that we'll be looking towards for the February 11th meeting, they're anticipating that they'll have their draft community engagement plan, for town staff and the committee to review in February. And that will also look towards the broader community engagement events, which right now are tentatively, the first is scheduled for May, and then the second was tentatively scheduled for July. but I mentioned to them that summertime community engagement in Concord is not ideal. And maybe if we could either bump it up to June or push to September, that might fit a little bit better. So they said that would be fine, but we'll just make that decision closer to if it's easier to bump it up or it makes more sense to push it out closer to the fall. But July feels like kind of a dead zone to me.
The meeting on that plan, can we please ensure that whomever the responsible parties are from, for public engagement planning from CMLP, and from the, wastewater effort, that we have them included so that we can learn from what they did
Yeah.
on their public campaigns?
Yeah.
I think that would be valuable.
And then just some other things that we touched base on with broader community engagement. They spoke a little bit about their work in Andover, on their climate action plan, thinking about things. They weren't working with a committee that was subject to open meeting law, so that makes things a little bit easier, but just thinking about ways that you can continue to have a greater role in the broader community engagement. And they gave some examples about just giving committee members a bigger role at some of the community workshops. If we split up into small groups, being able to facilitate and take notes and stuff like that. And also they said that they in Andover had a lot of great success with just like intermediate engagement, you know, reaching out to some of your own smaller networks, and they gained a lot of feedback that way. Andover did do, I think, a pretty significant survey, which like we're not planning to do that, but I know they have some ideas for web engagement still too, so.
Excellent.
All right, that's about what I have for now.
Right,
Thank you.
so after we give you bios and after you've got your initial talk, what's next for each of us? What should our next homework or expectation be?
I don't know that I have the answer for that right now. Well, expectation, definitely you can expect to see the consultants here for the February meeting. But I don't have your next homework assignment yet.
So in it, I wanna wrap my arms around how we can deal with the sort of miscellaneous ideas that people have thrown out in various meetings in the past. And our answer has been, place for that idea is in the climate action plan. And in advance of this meeting, more than one of you got me a list of things that you were hoping that we could have as part of this conversation tonight. And I haven't heard a single idea that somebody wanted discussed or included in a plan that I feel like we have adequately deliberated on to be able to say we've decided on that issue. And I want to make sure that we have some kind of system in place where you've got a special idea of the thing that you want to do, and we say the right place for that is in the climate plan. We need to have a systematic way of collecting all of those ideas and then deliberating on them and dispensing of them one way or another. And I got to tell you, like already, all of the ones where we've said in a prior meeting, the place for that is later in the climate action plan. Like I feel like that's been the right response always. And I'm gonna have to go back and watch 9 or 10 different meetings because I don't have a list of those things. I don't think anybody else does either. And they're not always all reflected in the minutes. Not a dig on you. Like that's not a proper thing always to put in the minutes. I want to make sure that we're systematic about these things. We don't want to be wasting the consultants' time.
Right.
Listening to deliberation on an idea that we end up not going forward on anyway. And we want to be somewhat methodical in our approach without having 8-hour meetings on all our special eggs and ideas. So I don't have something to suggest at this juncture. does anybody have a thought on how we'd like to deal with this stuff?
I have one thought, and it would be helpful. I know you've sent around in the past the old climate action plan. Wherever that link is on my computer, I've lost that.
I got that.
It's right here. It's right
It's
here.
on this document.
It's on the document, yeah, you just click on it.
This is the old one, this climate action.
This is the old one. Yes. Click on that.
Okay, thank you. That's easy. But that would help me,
Yeah.
because so I'm not so.
But that is a difficulty, and it's the same thing that Mr. Parker was talking about.
That
And
things get
and
lost, yeah.
things get lost on the website, but that's why we always include that hyperlink there, is because I can't tell you the number of times I've had to click on that exactly.
Right.
So
We-
one thing that, sorry, go ahead.
No, you,
Well, I was just, in terms of process. Well, you know, I think of it as a parking lot, right? We should be having a running parking lot of all these ideas and collecting them. And then synthesizing. The school did they're doing a vision of a graduate exercise where they're trying to think about, you know, all the different things that they should put in this vision of graduate. It's sort of similar process in a way, what goes in the climate action plan. Doing all sorts of community engagement and focus groups, and we've got, you know, thousands of people they're talking to. And they used a combination of stickies and post, like kind of what we did on the January 5th exercise, which was great. And these conversations and a little bit of AI doing some data analysis synthesis, because it's a lot to sort of cull through, and it's like, what are some big themes? I can imagine a sort of similar exercise. I don't know if we actually have as many, you know, but to your point, you know, maybe the last like 12 months of meetings, we've actually had some parking lot ideas, things that, you know, I'm sort of a qualitative researcher. I would like to not leave any stone unturned and do us a service, sort of saying like, what are the things that have really come to the fore that are really important that we need to deliberate on? And not just to be something that we popcorn out of the meeting. Like, I would like to have some sort of work done in the background. Doesn't have to be a lot, and so that's why I mentioned AI. It's like, I actually think that's a great tool to sort of sift through, and maybe the list isn't long, maybe it's only 3 or 4 things, and that's, so what I'm saying is
It's more than 3 or 4.
is irrelevant. If it's 3 or 4 things, we don't need what I'm talking about. But if it's, you know, 30 or 40 different conversations we've had over time, things, I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know what the corpus is, what we're talking about.
okay, parking lot, we need a,
I also think from a process standpoint, you know, if we're only going to have an opportunity for the full group to meet with the consultants every other month, you know, we want to make sure we're utilizing the time with them most efficiently as we can. And so there may maybe be some months where there could be one other shorter meeting, something like we did in January, where that can be hashed out before the next meeting with the consultants. But it's to have, with open meeting law, it is such a challenge to have the full committee in one spot.
well, so. Shannon should own the parking lot, right? And we should be, putting stuff there, copying the chair to make sure that he's aware of what we'll put there, maybe. And commercial solar and batteries and, all these things that, we come up and maybe you should bring it to the meeting and say, this is what we have in
Yeah.
the parking lot. Right now, this is our parking lot. Or maybe we need to be assigned, between meetings to take items from the parking lot and think about that and put some color on that, right? Yeah,
Would it be possible to have, the current plan, put into a spreadsheet with all of the action items?
I think we have
Yeah, I
that.
have that spreadsheet.
Yeah,
We already have that, but to use that as a shared document in which, individual members could, have a column to add or highlight or annotate as needed.
We can't really
Can't.
share the document and all be working on different pieces of it visible to everybody else.
We could have our individual copies and email them.
you can have individual copies, or you could just send me like what your thoughts to be input are, but yeah, unfortunately, it just has to go through one person.
But
Yeah.
It was a consistent organization to our input, so it's not just soup.
Yeah,
Fran, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, how is this going to work? Does the parking lot document that Shannon creates, is that available to all of us to look at, and perhaps to the public as well? I mean, we need a Google Doc, but I guess that doesn't really work.
well, so you can all have a view only copy of this spreadsheet, and that's no problem. It gets dicey with open meeting law if you were all to be able to edit a document, but I will just send it to you as view only, and you can all have, you know, the individual document. There's no problem with that.
And our input into it is a one-way email to you.
Exactly. Yep.
And we've talked about individual members of the committee having the roles, you know. If it's about neighborhood of electrification, it goes to Fran, or if it's about something, it goes to somebody else. I don't know where we go with that, but it's like we want to be doing our homework and bringing something to the consultants, so there's something that a bit more meat on.
Yeah, and you know, like maybe a better, I mean, of course, if you want to watch all the old meetings, you could do that. But maybe a better use of time is homework assignment number 2. You think of what those items are now and just send those to me rather than trying to synthesize previous discussions.
Yeah.
But we also have the minutes from the January 5th, the notes from the January 5th brainstorming too, which of course is a good point to start and reference. But yeah, if you want to just start fresh and send these ideas that we've been thinking, oh, it would be great to put this in the update, you can just start sending those.
Is that a new hand up or an old hand up? Fran,
Oh, I'm trying to figure out how it relates to this parking lot document, but we need to figure out, are we on track to our goals or not? And we've talked about how somebody will do a emission inventory for maybe 2024 or something that would be like a basis for the numbers. Are we on track in 2024? I think we've agreed that we're not asking the consultant. We don't want to pay the consultant to do that. One of us could do that with the MAPC tool or something. That seems like something we ought to schedule, make an assignment and schedule somehow so that it happens early enough so that we can have this sort of substantive discussion of, are we basically writing a plan that says we're on track and here's how we keep going? Or are we saying we're falling behind, we need to work harder?
Yeah, benchmarking is really important.
Yeah.
Is that a special meeting then? Are you proposing kind of having a special meeting to do that work? Or having somebody on the committee do that work and present to the committee at a future meeting? Or something?
Well, I know where I can find the natural gas usage from Mass Save data, and you know that there's data on some, you know, heat pump adoption and EV registrations, and there's a few things that are out there, and
well,
but I don't have the knowledge or expertise to do a complete.
I would endorse you doing whatever you're suggesting, because that sounds, I mean, this work needs to get done, and it's something that we started, you know, and moved pretty slowly on and sort of did. Natural resources, I think we tried to tackle, and then we kind of put it on pause to get the consultant, but
Yeah.
to your point, the work of looking back and saying, how successful were we, is really important. Going through.
Yeah, I've been meaning to, and I think I said I was going to, but I didn't do it yet, is get a dump of the assessor's database for a particular date. And I think it would be 2025 or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if they, just to be able to, that's one of the inputs into the MIT thing stuff, I just haven't gotten to it, I've been too busy. But I.
Maybe we could just ask them for like a complete data dump into a spreadsheet or something, so they don't have to do any sort of special formatting for us. I don't know. But I do think that would be a great step. Thank you.
What do you need, Brad, from the assessors, just a database?
We've had it before, a list of all the houses, all houses and their heating fuels and areas and stuff like that. It's, I've had various versions of it, and then, you know, commercial, residential, municipal, broken out.
Just for building.
Just for buildings. Because the other things, you know, the automobiles are in a state database, they're readily available. I will I will request it.
Awesome. Anything else under this item before we move on?
We haven't, we skipped over the item, that said,
Debrief.
debrief of brainstorming session.
Yeah, that's mostly in the interest of time. Do you want to do a debrief right now?
I don't need to debrief. I thought it was excellent. I'm wondering, and the notes are great, but I also think there was maybe more on those little stickies. And I'm wondering if those are gonna be captured.
They have been.
Oh, they're all.
I'm just holding them hostage until you approve my minutes, and now you have, so they will be released as soon as I plug my phone into my computer.
Excellent. So they can be in a digital form, not a little paper form.
Yes, I've also kept all little papers very carefully away from my 6-year-old, but yes, everything has been photographed in a way that I'm pretty sure, fingers crossed, is gonna be easily legible,
Right.
you know?
Thank you.
Uploaded.
That's great.
It was good to have so many participants.
Oh, sorry.
Did you capture in the minutes all the participants that were there? And
Yes.
that they, will be notified for the February 11th meeting so that they, maybe they can, any participant that wants to participate could provide a bio.
Well, that's a good question. I wasn't planning to invite the town staff. And the reason Ms. Galis was there was she was representing TAC on Mark's behalf.
Yeah,
Mark had given her notes.
yeah.
And you know, Betsy was here representing Mothers Out Front. So I didn't have a plan per se to include them in Shannon's deal. We should think about how to involve relevant town staff and other committees.
Including CMLP.
Yes,
Yeah, I think if there's somebody, you know, if there's somebody from TAC or from another agency that is like, yeah, I want to be working on this. They should be at the same level as us, provide their expertise and.
well, let's do it this way. I have an appointment already in the book to meet with Megan and Shannon on Tuesday next week.
Yeah.
Debrief, make a plan for the next month.
Good.
We'll include this on the agenda to figure out how to make sure that everybody is appropriately included and invited in a systematic way so that it's not, you know, an exercise of cat herding or anything like that. That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, and I guess to the extent, Eric was the, right,
Eric wasn't there. Ryan Ferrara is the correct.
and what's his position?
He is the assistant CFO.
Yeah.
And he was there mostly because he was gonna be in the room the next hour after.
That's what my question was he actually, cause he left and I was so excited that there was a finance person in the room and I really feel strongly that somebody in finance, it doesn't have to be the CFO or the assistant, but somebody who, you know, someone from FinCom, I don't know who it would be, but I would really like that stakeholder in the room.
That's what I.
Good.
I don't know how that happens, I'm looking at you and you,
Yeah.
if you can make that magic happen, maybe
Yeah.
that could be on your agenda for Tuesday or.
Definitely.
I know that's hard, everyone's strapped for time.
Yeah, and I really do think, like, to both Brad's point, I think that half the time it is because people are unaware of these meetings, like Megan and I didn't know about the school sustainability meeting, you know, it's like we gotta just do a better job communicating the opportunities for these things sometimes.
And no one's required to go to all these meetings, but
Yeah.
just making sure people
Totally.
know and that they're on the list.
Yeah.
Of important stakeholders.
Yeah, we
Is
will
Step one,
make note of that.
yeah.
Well, and an efficient way to do it, back to the spreadsheet idea. Is to
But isn't there
Sorry, friend. I was
A really-
just-
send
I'm
it
sorry.
to the relevant groups like the solar task force and say, hey, what recommendations can you make and send back to our committee? On the section we think is relevant for your expertise. That kind of setup, so it will not, because it applies to so many areas, it does, it's very cross-cutting.
I think there's some relationship management that needs to happen with that. There's some committees that we're in strong alignment with, where it would be fine to do that, and there are others where it would require much more personal touch to get anything meaningful and to not put them in a defensive posture. So we'll need to be pretty thoughtful, and I think person to person on stuff like that. But yes, we should absolutely be doing that with anybody that we think is a stakeholder. Fran, go ahead. Did you have something else?
I was just going to say that CMLP seems to me to be sort of there, you know, more than just another stakeholder here. They have already, I think, a key role in actually implementing the climate plan. But I think that role could be more formalized and elevated and perhaps more thoroughly funded in ways that would really involve working with them. We can't write a plan for what they should do internally exactly. So it would really, I mean, I'm just not sure how the interagency work goes. They are sort of part of the town infrastructure that's working on this plan that we're doing already. But is there anything else we need to do to really work with them on formalizing and elevating their role going forward? If we
I
thought
think
that
it's
was a
just
good idea.
Sustained engagement with them. I mean, it speaks volumes that Jason came to our thing.
Yeah,
On a tight time frame for himself, on a tight schedule, and then stayed even though it made him late for his 1 o'clock. I mean, they're, you know, as it were, plugged in with what we're doing, and we just
Yeah.
need to make sure that we increase the ampage.
should we invite
So-
someone from the light board to attend all of our meetings that touch on the plan?
Like board
Or the staff?
staff, I think Laura, Scott participated in the last climate action plan, didn't she? Brad, do you remember that?
I don't remember, the Fran might remember whether it was.
Yeah, but I mean, it's worth asking if Laura Scott would be appropriate.
Well, I'm already in touch with her because she's prospectively coming in next month to talk about the time of use rates on that roadshow. So I can just tack that on to the ongoing conversation.
Yeah, Laura stuff.
Is it possible to, this might not be, or might be out of scope, but the transmission question that, you know, Bob was asking about, it seems like it's been brought up a lot, and I feel like I need some education, maybe I can do that on the side, but if
Some of it, I'll just comment, the
Yeah.
solar task force got into the infrastructure issues and what came forth with the battery recommendation. So if you read that report, there's a lot of information around the infrastructure.
and
Challenges around solar.
and that includes the transmission situation.
Yeah, they got into it and then why we needed some recommendations.
Does that report on the website?
Yes, I can send it to you too.
Can I see
Yeah.
that? I'd be
Yeah.
interested.
Yeah,
I'll just send it out to.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, distribution, yeah,
yeah, it's distribution.
distribution.
Yeah, it explains it pretty well.
Okay, then that would be good reading to have, I think, before next meeting, as homework. Or I might be the only person that hasn't
Yeah.
read it, but yeah.
Go ahead, Megan.
Oh, thank you. I just, I wanted to mention for staff participation, I think Ryan was at the meeting because we talked about it. I talked about it at a senior management meeting. I think he had to get called away for something else, but I think thinking about how to engage other staff is an important conversation. I just want to recognize that there are other ways for staff to participate besides coming to, the evening meetings. I know a lot of staff receive communication from myself or Shannon about these topics, meet on specific other topics related to this work. Like I was mentioning, the ESCO work, the decarbonization roadmap work. And I think I said that, they watch the meetings afterwards too. So I don't, if the board is interested in having additional staff attend these, climate action meetings for specific topics, of course, they're welcome to extend it. But I just want to be thinking about, the time and commitments here and if there are specific questions or if there's, additional coordination that we can do, I'm happy to do it. But I do give sustainability updates in a number of places with our teams to make sure people are abreast of what's being discussed in these meetings. And I know a lot of people like to kind of rewatch the tape and see for themselves as well. So, but communication is never done, we're never there, and internally and external. And so I think there's always room for improvement. But I just wanted to make sure the committee knows that just because you're not seeing, that whole team of people at the meeting every time you meet, they are following along and working on your behalf to, implement the last climate action plan, and will help to choose the consultant for this next one, and will be, part of the macro team that moves these initiatives forward as they're being developed. Thank you.
Thanks for naming that. Because sometimes we don't see it, and it's good to know that.
Yeah, great.
That beyond the people in the room are abreast of what's happening.
All right, we failed to get out of this room by 9 o'clock, but we can still get out in under 2 hours if we're done in the next 3 minutes. Let's move on to other updates. Fran successfully filed our GSEP filing with DPU. Thank you for that. Are there any other updates on GSEP and non-pipeline alternatives?
Not except that I was wondering whether Megan had heard anything about a follow-up meeting with National Grid.
I haven't, Fran. I think we talked about this is a parking lot one. I think we talked about thinking about how it fits into the plan, climate action resilience plan first at one of our climate action meetings. I think that was kind of the discussion there. So yeah, let's add that to the list.
Any updates on network geothermal?
I haven't gotten to work on it in a while.
Hearing none. Updates on the schools. I would just note that that CMLP was surprised to learn that the school is intending to move forward on the solar panels on the roof, and that was on the agenda for the school committee this evening, contemporaneous with this meeting. So you can watch the video and find out what they had to say for themselves. I believe that the signed paperwork that CMLP had been missing was finally transmitted to them, and that the schools are intending to move forward with an RFP again. So RFP round 2.
So
that's what I heard. I'll have to check the video. Yeah, well, I'll have to check the video. Anything else on schools?
The Bruce Freeman connection was approved by school committee, so we know Dr. Hunter and are making progress towards that.
That's great. Who's paying for it?
We're stacking grants. It's gonna be a long process.
Yeah.
I know that the student group that is working on the Climate Solutions Challenge is decided to work on promoting induction cooking. And I haven't had a chance to meet with them. They haven't met, I did hear from, Rebecca Meeks today that they'll probably want to, meet and talk about it, in the next week or two. I just heard that today.
Do you think they might wanna go, I don't know, if it's not during school hours, but the free gun tours or inductions or.
I told them about it, that they could help out and interact with residents and talk to them about induction. But I didn't hear back from the student.
And when is what's the timeframe on that again? Is
It's,
April?
I think the project needs to be done by the end of March or something, but it might be April.
Okay. Right.
So, yeah, I'd like to work with them and help them, develop their campaign and, come up with something good. There's about 12, there's 12 schools involved in the challenge. And it would be nice if the CCHS team did okay.
How many kids are involved?
I think it's 2.
Oh, okay.
Where are they focusing on induction, use of induction?
Residential.
Residential. Because if you focus on that in the developing world, you get a lot more. I'm asking for the schools, the kids in the high school.
Yeah.
Should look at the developing world for a project because the impacts are much greater. They're burning firewood versus being able to put an induction stove.
You're right, but the challenge is a local thing, but it's good, I love the idea, maybe, that can be the next step.
Yeah.
Next stage.
Well, PV panel. The little induction cooktop instead of a. Stuff.
Yeah,
So we do have left, and thank you for staying, one member of the public here, so we'll open the floor for any public comments. Hearing none,
Give Sophia,
yes,
give her a chance.
Sophia, you wanna say
I
something?
gave her a chance.
Well, she might not know she's the member you're talking about.
is she the student that was, involved last summer?
Yes.
Good.
Does the chair hear a motion to adjourn to meet next February 11th at 7 PM in this room and virtually?
Move to adjourn.
And a second, and we have to do this by roll as well. Bob,
Hey,
Brad,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shelley,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye,
Fran,
aye.
just as I were here.